Spider-Man Brand New Day is currently in theaters. So, the next MCU movie must be Avengers Doomsday, coming out in December, right? Actually, technically no, there is another MCU movie coming out in September. It's a re-release of Avengers Endgame called Avengers Endgame Encore. It's not just a re-release, it's actually a new updated version of the film, because Doomsday is a sequel to Endgame, and it retcons several events from that film. And so this is the reason that they're re-releasing Endgame with some additional footage. And I believe some of this footage will also be shown in Doomsday, but Endgame Encore will have several new scenes that help to set up certain plot points in Endgame. I'm not a huge fan of this, to be honest, because it feels like Doomsday is such a mess already, and we've talked about the leaked plot. In terms of all the multiverse and the time-bending stuff in that movie, and all the characters crammed in, there's a lot of characters in Doomsday, that it's now become necessary for them to modify Endgame, a film from 2019, in order to help make the story for Doomsday flow more seamlessly. This is meant to help transition between the two movies by adding additional context. Presumably the actors will be de-aged for the scenes that they put in. I do, however, understand the re-release of this film from a commercial perspective. The cost of producing the additional scenes for Endgame Encore will likely just be rolled into the budget for Doomsday, so it's not going to cost very much money in that regard. The only cost is marketing and distribution. Encore will likely be a nice little earner for Disney Marvel in that respect. But what story value will Endgame Encore actually contribute? This article is from comicbookmovie.com. Avengers Endgame Encore will reportedly feature as much as 7 minutes of additional footage. At Cryptic 4K Qual has now shared some new details, and he believes Encore will be 7 minutes longer than the original theatrical version. It says, I hear the Avengers Endgame Encore will have a new intro, new bonus scenes, and the ending sequence will lead directly into Avengers Doomsday. Take with a grain of salt, but I'm also hearing it will be 7 minutes longer than the original. And Encore is coming out in September, 2 months before Doomsday. I'm hoping it's not going to be necessary to watch this new version of Endgame prior to watching Doomsday, because that's just going to complicate things more. And we're at a stage now where I think for casual audiences, there's just too much homework needed prior to watching some of these films. It says, while speaking at the Sands Film Festival in April, co-director of both movies, Joe Russo, described the re-release as a critical companion story. Oh, there you go, critical companion story. And a setup for what we're going to watch in December when you see Avengers Doomsday. It's critically important to re-release the movie, and, in fact, we'll be re-releasing the film with footage that is set in the Doomsday story that we have added to Avengers Endgame. It's an opportunity to create a bridge from Endgame to Doomsday in a very unique way, and because the movie was so successful, we have an opportunity to re-release it, he added. You don't always get the chance to re-release because it costs money, so the fact that we can enhance the story of Doomsday by bridging it to Endgame and these characters that we worked with for years that we love so much and continue their story, it's a really unique opportunity. Now, I have no problem with new versions of films being released, like director's cuts, extended cuts, special editions, that sort of thing. But what matters is why the film is being re-released. And in this case, Avengers Endgame is being re-released in order to facilitate the story of another movie by adding what sound like retcons. Now that I don't like. Endgame may not have been the perfect film. It may not have been the perfect film in terms of ending the Infinity Saga, but it worked quite well as a conclusion. And I also believe that Steve Rogers' happy ending was a highlight. And the fact that they're going to be sort of going in there and messing with it a little bit, to me, it sullies the legacy of the original Endgame movie. So, yeah, a little bit of spoilers. Too late, I suppose. I should have said that at the start. In Doomsday, Loki approaches Steve Rogers in the past and tells him his presence there is a problem. It's all multiverse stuff, whatever. So Steve and Peggy and their son are moved to Earth 828, which is the universe of the Fantastic Four. Those are details we learned from the leaks and the fact that there's a shot in the trailer for Doomsday with Loki and he's handing Steve his TVA card strongly suggests that that leak is accurate. So anyway, what is this new footage going to be, and the additional 7 minutes that are going to be put in this movie? Well, I know that there's going to be a scene inserted into Tony Stark's funeral, which includes Steve and talking to Ant-Man and someone else possibly. And there's also going to be some post-credit scenes as well, presumably a mid-credit scene and a post-credit scene, because the original Endgame, as you might remember, didn't have any scenes at the end. There was no mid or post-credit scene. And of course, there's probably going to be other scenes peppered into the movie here and there. I've heard a rumor, and I don't know if this is true, that we might see Steve returning the Infinity Stones to the various universes that they came from, because at the end he goes back through time to return them. At any rate, all will be revealed next month, and I'm going to leave you with something. And again, this is just a rumor, but I think it's got a lot of credibility, and a lot of people are talking about it online. In the climax of Endgame, you might recall when Thanos arrives on Earth, Steve is on the ground and Tony comes over to him to give him his shield. And Steve asks, "What happened?" And Tony replies, "You mess with time, it tends to mess back. You'll see." Now, in the original context, Tony is referring to the 2014 version of Thanos and his unexpected arrival on Earth. But a lot of people now believe this line is going to be given a new context, which will tie into Doomsday and possibly tie into Doom, because after all, it is Tony Stark saying this line. You mess with time, it tends to mess back. You'll see. So this line could be given a new meaning with respect to the events that are coming in Doomsday and what happens with Steve and the consequences of Steve's actions at the end of Endgame and the incursions that resulted and all the time bending and all that sort of stuff that follows. And you know, also people are asking, we still want to know what the in-universe explanation is going to be as to why Victor Von Doom is going to look like Tony Stark. You know, beyond the fact that obviously both characters are going to be played by the same actor, but is there an in-universe explanation? And people are presuming that in Universe 828, Tony Stark basically lived a different life. You know, a variant of Tony Stark became Victor Von Doom. And so Steve Rogers will literally mess with time by trying to live out his life in a past universe he was never supposed to live in. With the incursion story arc in Doomsday, I guess that's where time is going to be messing back. So there you go, guys. I'm going to wrap this one up here. What are your thoughts on Avengers Endgame Encore? And will you be going to see this movie next month? Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Computing Forever. Hit that notification bell to be notified of future updates. Hit that like button. Share the video out there. Take care. And I shall see you in the next one. Bye-bye.